It was a perfect Saturday afternoon. The sky was clear, the breeze was soft, and the McAllister family had set up a cozy picnic under the largest oak tree in the park. 8-year-old Lily, curious and full of energy, was more interested in chasing butterflies than eating sandwiches. Her parents, tired from a long week, allowed her to explore nearby, keeping one eye on her bouncing ponytail as she skipped through the grass. Lily had always been a wanderer. She didn't like sitting still for long. The moment a monarch butterfly floated past her face, she squealed with excitement and ran after it, weaving between trees and tall bushes. The further she followed it, the quieter the sounds of the picnic became. But she didn't notice. Her eyes were fixed on the butterfly's gentle flight. Her mind full of imagination, she crossed a narrow stream, hopping over stones without thinking twice. On the other side was a wide-open meadow she had never seen before. It was beautiful, filled with wildflowers and dancing grass. She felt like she had stepped into a secret world no one else knew about. The butterfly vanished into the sky, but Lily didn't mind. She spun around in the sunlight, laughing. Then the wind stopped. Everything felt still. Lily paused. Something had shifted. There were no more birds chirping, no rustling leaves, no buzzing insects, just silence. Then she heard a low growl, deep and steady, coming from behind the trees. She turned slowly. One German shepherd stepped out of the brush. Its ears were up, eyes sharp, and it didn't blink. Lily froze, not knowing whether to run or stay still. Then another dog appeared. Then another, and another. Within moments, 4 large German shepherds were standing just feet away from her. Then 5 more emerged. Then 5 again. 14 in total. They were beautiful, but intimidating. Each one stood tall, silent, and focused entirely on her. None barked. None moved quickly. They simply advanced a step at a time, forming a half circle around her. Her heart beat so hard she could hear it in her ears. She took a slow step back and nearly tripped over a rock behind her. The moment she moved, the dogs stopped. She held her breath. What was happening? Why were they there? Where had they come from? Her eyes darted around for a way out, but they were already in a formation. She was surrounded, though not fully enclosed. The dogs didn't growl or bare their teeth. Instead, they watched her like sentinels. Their heads tilted slightly in curiosity, as if waiting to see what she would do next. Lily's legs felt weak. Her instinct told her to scream, but her voice didn't come. Then, a strange calm washed over her. For a brief second, she remembered something her grandfather used to say. Dogs don't trust panic. If you stay calm, they will too. She swallowed hard and slowly sat down in the grass, trying not to make any sudden movements. The dogs remained still. A few of them tilted their heads again, ears twitching. One of them took a single step closer. Back at the picnic, Lily's parents were beginning to panic. Her mother stood up and called her name. No answer. Her father scanned the tree line and saw nothing. They both stood, eyes searching frantically. They called again, louder this time. A nearby couple looked over. Is everything okay? One asked. The mother didn't answer. She was already walking toward the trees. Within minutes, a crowd had gathered, helping search for the missing girl. But no one could have guessed where she'd gone or what strange situation she had stumbled into. Just beyond the trees. Because out in the meadow, Lily sat in total silence, surrounded by 14 German shepherds, and not a single one was barking. Lily's mother Hannah had a habit of counting seconds when her daughter wasn't in sight. It was something she developed when Lily was a toddler, always wandering off to explore corners and creeks. 30 seconds. 1 minute. A growing sense of unease. 2 minutes. That was her limit. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Hannah stood up from the picnic blanket, her sandwich forgotten in her hand. Has anyone seen Lily? She asked, scanning the nearby trees. Her husband Tom looked up. She was chasing a butterfly. She'll be back. But Hannah didn't feel right. There was something about the quiet, the stillness of the nearby woods. Lily, she called out, louder this time. Nothing. No rustling. No laughter. No little footsteps returning. Her voice broke as she shouted again. Lily. Tom was already on his feet. A few families nearby turned their heads, concerned. She couldn't have gone far, he said, trying to sound confident, but even he could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Within 5 minutes, people from nearby picnic spots were helping. A park attendant brought over a walkie-talkie and reported a missing child to the ranger station. We'll cover the east path and call in some help, the attendant said, as they organized a quick search party. One elderly man wearing a faded green cap and walking his dog stepped closer. "Did you say Lily's missing?" he asked quietly. "Was she near the woods?" Tom nodded. "Yes, she went that way." The man hesitated. "You may want to talk to the ranger about a place just beyond the woods. There's an old dog training field up north. Not many people know about it. Sometimes the dogs roam." "Dogs," Hannah repeated. "What kind of dogs?" "Big ones," the man said. "German shepherds, highly trained, obedient, but unpredictable if they're out of their zone." Hannah's face went pale. "You think she could be near them?" The man sighed. "I'm just saying. They don't bark like normal dogs. They're quiet. They move in groups. If she's near them, you'll hear silence, not noise." Those words struck her like lightning dot. At the same time, deeper in the woods, Lily sat still in the grass. The 14 dogs surrounding her hadn't moved much. One lay down near her left side. Another sniffed gently at her shoe before backing away. Their behavior was strange, cautious, yet deliberate. They weren't treating her like prey. They weren't treating her like a threat, either. It was almost as if they were guarding her. She watched the closest one, larger than the others, with a scar across one ear. He was watching the tree line, not her. His eyes followed the wind, his ears twitching. Something told Lily that he wasn't worried about her. He was watching for something else. For a brief moment, she stopped feeling afraid. She looked around and realized every dog had positioned itself facing outward, their backs to her. It was as if she were at the center of a living circle of protection. Back at the ranger station, a call came in through the radio. "We have a child missing, possibly in the northwest woods. Witness says she may be near the old canine compound." The ranger on duty, a middle-aged man named Russell, stood up straight. "You mean the Pierce unit?" he asked. "That's the one." Russell didn't waste time. He grabbed his field jacket and keys. "Call Pierce. Tell him some of his dogs may have gotten loose again, and this time, there's a child involved." As Russell drove toward the forest trail, his thoughts were racing. The Pierce dogs were trained for rescue, search, and obedience, but they weren't meant to roam freely. And if they'd activated their group instincts, things could go either way. But he had a strange feeling about this case. Something told him the dogs weren't hurting anyone. Something told him they were waiting. Lily sat motionless, her legs tucked beneath her, and her arms crossed tightly against her chest. Her eyes shifted from dog to dog, unsure if she was dreaming or trapped in something much more real. 14 German shepherds formed a wide circle. Around her, some sitting, others standing, all silent. She had never seen so many dogs so close without hearing a single bark. The largest one, the one with the torn ear, seemed to be their leader. He moved first, pacing quietly around her, never breaking eye contact. Then he paused and tilted his head slightly, as if assessing her from a different angle. Lily dared not move. Her heart raced, but something deep inside her told her not to run. It wasn't fear keeping her still, was instinct. A few minutes passed. One of the dogs, slightly younger looking with a glossy black coat, approached slowly. Lily held her breath. He came close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath. Then he did something unexpected. He sat down, right beside her. He didn't growl or stare. He simply leaned against her, his shoulder touching hers. Gently. Lily blinked, stunned. Was he comforting her? The others began shifting positions. One by one, they moved inward, not to close the circle, but to surround her with presence, not pressure. Lily watched as 2 of them lay down at her feet. Another sat behind her like a watchful guardian. It felt strange, but not threatening. It was as if they had decided she belonged there with them. In the distance, the wind picked up slightly, rustling the treetops. The leader's ears flicked up, and all the other dogs stiffened. Every head turned in unison toward the same patch of woods. Something had caught their attention. Lily looked in that direction too, but saw nothing. Then came a crunch of leaves, a faint sound. Far away but growing louder. The dogs didn't move toward it. They simply lowered themselves to the ground, their bodies shielding Lily. They were positioning themselves like soldiers. Lily leaned down and whispered, "Are you protecting me?" The dogs didn't respond, of course, but their stillness told her everything. Elsewhere in the woods, Ranger Russell parked his vehicle and stepped out with a field map in hand. Beside him was a younger trainee named Miles, trying to keep up. "Sir," Miles asked, "do you really think those dogs are near the child?" "I don't think I know," Russell replied. "If they're out, they've gathered. If they've gathered, they've chosen something to defend. Let's hope they see the girl as part of their pack, and not a problem." "But they're trained, right?" Miles asked. "Shouldn't they just return?" They're trained, Russell said, but instinct trumps training when emotions get involved. And those dogs, especially the leader Thor, they've seen things. They've worked disaster zones, war zones, missing persons cases. When they act as one, something serious is happening. As they trekked deeper into the forest, Russell checked the path markers. There's a meadow up ahead, isolated, quiet. If she made it that far, and they're with her, we need to move carefully. Back at the clearing, Lily had started to relax a little. She sat with her legs crossed now, gently petting the young dog beside her. He nudged her knee every few seconds, almost playfully. The leader remained watchful. Not once did he take his eyes off the direction of the approaching footsteps. Then, for the first time since she entered the meadow, Lily heard something human. Voice, someone was calling her name. But before she could stand, the leader growled just once. Not in anger, in warning. The others responded with soft synchronized whines. Lily understood. Not yet. Whoever was coming, the dogs wanted to be sure. And Lily, without knowing why, nodded in agreement. Ranger Russell slowed his pace as he reached the outer edge of the meadow. He raised a hand, signaling for Miles to stop. Through the brush, just past a wall of tall grass, Russell spotted movement shades of black and brown, shifting slowly against the sunlight. Then he saw her, a little girl, sitting cross-legged on the ground, surrounded by 14 German shepherds. He didn't say a word. His breath caught in his throat as he took in the surreal sight. Lily looked calm, oddly calm for a child alone in the woods, surrounded by powerful animals. One dog lay with its head on her lap. 2 others flanked her like sentries. The biggest one, Thor, stood at full attention, scanning the tree line. Miles whispered, "That's her. That has to be her. Should we call out?" Russell shook his head firmly. "No sudden moves. No loud sounds. We do anything wrong, those dogs could turn. She's safe right now. Let's not ruin that." But even as he said the words, Lily did something no one expected. She stood up, gently pushing herself to her feet. She let her hands brush the back of the dog beside her. He licked her fingers once, then stepped aside. The others remained seated. None growled. None moved toward her. All eyes were on her. She turned toward the tall dog in the center. Thor, she looked him in the eye, and then she hugged him. Not a quick touch or pat on the head. A full, arms wrapped around her neck embrace. The kind of hug a child gives a trusted friend. The kind that means everything's going to be okay. Russell and Miles were stunned. Even Thor froze for a moment, clearly confused by the gesture. But then, slowly, he leaned into the hug. He pressed his massive head against the girl's shoulder and let out a low, satisfied breath. The entire pack responded. It was as if Lily's action had sent a silent signal through all of them. Tension drained from their bodies. They relaxed. One by one, they lay down in the grass, their heads low, tails still. Miles whispered, "I've never seen anything like this, not even in training videos." "She just told them she trusts them," Russell murmured, "and now they trust her back." Lily, unaware that anyone was watching, sat back down. She looked up toward the trees and called out, "Hello, is someone there?" Russell stepped into the clearing slowly, hands visible, voice gentle. "Lily, my name's Russell. I work with the park. Your parents are looking for you. You're safe now." The dogs didn't move. Thor simply turned his head slightly, eyes following the man. Lily looked at the ranger, then at Thor. "Is it okay if he comes closer?" she asked softly. Thor blinked slowly. He didn't growl, he didn't shift. Lily smiled and nodded. He said, "It's okay." Miles nearly choked. "Did she just—" "She's not wrong," Russell said under his breath, stepping forward one cautious step at a time. "She's reading him better than most trainers could." He moved within a few feet, then crouched. "Lily, your mom and dad are just down the trail. Would you like me to take you to them?" Lily looked around at the dogs, hesitating. "Will they be okay if I leave?" "They'll be fine," Russell said gently. "I think they were just keeping you company until help came." Lily leaned down and kissed the top of Thor's head. "Thank you," she whispered. As she walked toward Russell, the dogs didn't follow. They simply watched her go, calm and alert. The meadow was still again, but this time filled with warmth, and somewhere deep inside, all 3 of them, Lily, Russell, and even Thor, knew something extraordinary had just happened. Lily clutched Ranger Russell's hand tightly as they walked down the narrow trail toward the search party. Her hair was full of leaves, and her shoes were wet from the stream, but she didn't seem scared anymore. In fact, she looked peaceful. someone who had just awoken from a strange dream she didn't want to end. Behind them, the meadow remained still. The 14 German shepherds had not followed. They sat like statues, waiting, guarding, or perhaps just resting after their duty was done. As Russell radioed ahead to confirm Lily's location, Miles stayed back for a moment longer, eyes scanning the silent dogs. "Do you think they'll stay there?" he asked. Russell nodded. "Until they get new instructions." "Yes. Who gives them instructions?" Miles asked. Russell's answer came just as a deep voice broke through the trees. "I do." Both men turned quickly. From the shadows of the path emerged a tall man in a long brown coat, his boots worn and muddy, and a weathered leather satchel slung over one shoulder. His gray beard was trimmed short, and his eyes sharp pale, and cold like steel took in every detail, with a quiet intensity. Russell recognized him immediately. "Pierce," he said. The man gave a curt nod. "I heard one of my teams went active." "Which unit?" "The full Shepherd pack," Russell replied. "All 14. They encircled a missing girl, held position for nearly an hour. Never barked, never moved aggressively." Pierce raised a brow. "They formed a perimeter." "Yes. And she wasn't afraid of them." She hugged Thor. The others responded to her. It was remarkable. The man's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. "Where is she now?" "Safe. Her parents have her. They're just down the trail. I'd keep your distance for now." Pierce stepped forward, glancing toward the meadow. And Thor, still in the center, watching. There was a pause, heavy with unspoken thoughts. Then Pierce reached into his coat and pulled out a small metal whistle. All silver, no shine. He raised it to his lips and gave a single, silent blow. No sound reached human ears, but in the meadow, the dogs heard it. Miles gasped as all 14 heads rose instantly. Without hesitation, the dogs stood, turned in unison, and began walking slowly, smoothly back into the woods. Pierce tucked the whistle away. They were trained for rescue, but they've also been trained to identify anomalies. Russell frowned. "Anomalies? Behavior, emotion, instinct," Pierce said quietly. "When their formation tightens like that, it's not random." They weren't guarding her. They were guarding from something else. Miles took a step forward. "But we didn't see anything out there. Nothing threatening." "You didn't," Pierce said. "But they might have." Russell narrowed his eyes. "You think something spooked them?" Pierce didn't answer. Instead, he turned his eyes back toward the trees. "Sometimes, the forest holds more than animals and hikers. These dogs, they've seen war zones, earthquakes, hostage situations. They recognize intent. And when they go silent and surround a child," he trailed off. "What?" Miles asked, leaning in. "They're preparing for something." Back at the trailhead, Lily ran into her mother's arms. Hannah held her like she never wanted to let go again. Tom stood close, overcome, with emotion, tears in his eyes. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" he asked over and over. "No," Lily said softly. "They were helping me. They kept me safe." She didn't explain everything, how the dogs listened without words, how they moved like they were reading her mind, how she felt like she had known them forever. It didn't feel like something the grown-ups would understand. But as she looked back toward the woods one last time, she saw something, a figure tall still, and watching from the shadows. And for a moment, she thought she saw Thor at his side. Then, they were gone. 3 days had passed since Lily returned from the forest, but the memory of the dogs never left her. She told her parents everything she could, how the German shepherds surrounded her, how they never barked or growled, and how she felt safer with them than she ever had before. Her parents listened, nodding, though they still spoke in hushed tones behind closed doors. At school, the other children whispered about the wild dog girl. Some teased her, others stared with wide-eyed curiosity. But Lily didn't mind. Deep down, she knew something happened out there, something the others would never understand. What began to trouble her, though, were the dreams. Every night since the forest, she would wake up breathless, her heart pounding. The dreams weren't scary, not exactly, but they were intense, vivid, in each one. She stood in the meadow again, surrounded by the 14 German shepherds. But this time, it was different. In the dream, the sky was darker, and the wind whispered strange things she couldn't understand. The dogs were on high alert, circling her tighter than before. Their eyes scanned the shadows as if something unseen crept closer, and always, Thor stood at the front, unmoving, growling at something she could never see. On the 4th night, Lily sat up in bed, clutching her blanket. The dream had ended the same way, again with Thor stepping in front of her, baring his teeth, as something dark moved at the edge of the trees. Her window was open. She could hear the wind. And then a sound. She froze. From outside, barely audible, beneath the rustling leaves, came a soft, rhythmic clicking, like claws on pavement. Her heart skipped out slowly. She crept to the window and peered out into the backyard. Moonlight bathed the grass in pale silver. The trees swayed gently. And at the edge of the yard, just near the bushes, a silhouette. Lily blinked. A dog, a single German shepherd, sitting perfectly still, staring directly at her window. It didn't bark. It didn't move. It just watched. Lily didn't scream. Somehow, she wasn't afraid. She stared back, 1,000 thoughts rushing through her mind. Was it Thor? Could he have followed her? Before she could call out, the dog stood, turned, and vanished into the darkness. The next morning, Lily didn't tell her parents. She didn't want them to worry. But she began watching the woods near their neighborhood more closely. And she started to notice small signs, paw prints near the fence, twigs broken in odd places, and once a collar tag on the ground with no name, only a strange symbol etched into the metal. Meanwhile, far from the neighborhood, Ranger Russell returned to the meadow. He found it empty, but something was off. The grass where the dogs had sat was undisturbed. No tracks, no fur, no signs of 14 large animals ever being there. He returned again the next day, nothing. Finally, on the third visit, he saw him, Pierce, sitting quietly on a tree stump, his coat dusty, his boots damp with dew. Russell approached. They're gone. Pierce nodded. They were never meant to stay. Where did they go? Pierce didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, did the girl dream of them? Russell's expression darkened. How did you know? Because she's marked now, Pierce said softly. Chosen. Russell frowned. For what? Pierce finally looked him in the eyes. To be protected. There's something coming. Something those dogs saw before any of us. And when it comes, it won't be barking that wakes the world, it'll be silence. Lily's world was changing and she could feel it. At first, it was small things. A shadow that didn't match the tree it belonged to. A flicker of movement in her peripheral vision. A feeling, deep in her chest, that someone or something was watching her. She started keeping her curtains drawn at night. But one evening, as she brushed her teeth before bed, her bathroom light flickered and buzzed. The mirror fogged up from the warm water, and when she wiped it clean with her sleeve, she froze. On the glass, drawn faintly by something unseen, were 4 lines thin, arched parallel, claw marks. Lily stepped back, her breath caught in her throat. The door behind her creaked slightly, and for the first time, she felt the cold hand of fear touch her neck. She ran out, calling for her parents. Tom checked the mirror, wiped it again, and sighed. It's just scratches in the glass, sweetie, probably from the cleaner or something, but Lily knew they weren't there before. The next day, the silence began. Her house, normally filled with music, chatter, and TV background noise, started to feel hollow. The birds that usually chirped outside her window were gone. The wind moved, the branches, but no rustling could be heard. It was as if the world was holding its breath. Then, during breakfast, their family dog, Benny, a small golden retriever, stood at the back door, growling softly. Lily looked up from her cereal. What's wrong with him? Benny's tail was stiff, his ears flattened, and then, without warning, he barked twice and bolted to the far end of the house. Scratching at the floorboards near the pantry. Tom followed him, trying to calm him down. Hey, what's gotten into you, boy? But Lily wasn't listening anymore. Her eyes were on the backyard, through the sliding glass door. Beyond the fence, she saw it again, a shape, 4-legged, broad-shouldered. Still, watching, Lily walked slowly to the door. As she reached for the handle, the shape took one step back and disappeared into the woods. Later that day, Russell knocked on their door. He looked tired, more tired than Lily had ever seen him. May I speak with Lily? He asked gently. Hannah hesitated. She's still shaken up. She's not sleeping well. I know, he said quietly. I won't scare her. I think she should hear something. In the living room, Lily sat across from him while her parents stood nearby. Russell knelt down, meeting her eyes. You've seen them again, haven't you? Lily didn't answer right away. But then, she nodded. He gave a small nod in return. They're still watching over you. But there's a reason. Something's changed. What is it? She asked. Russell looked down, then back up. Last night, a family camping 5 miles from where we found you reported something strange. Their son disappeared from the tent for 10 minutes. When he came back, He said a dog led him into the trees, then told him to go back. Tom asked. He said the dog spoke without speaking, just like Lily described. Lily whispered, was it Thor? Russell shook his head. No, it wasn't one of Pierce's dogs. It was bigger and darker, and the boy said it didn't have eyes. The room went silent. Lily's pulse quickened. Something icy slipped down her spine. Later that night, she opened her bedroom window and looked out. The moon was full, but the forest behind her house seemed darker than usual, heavier. Then, far in the distance, she heard it, barely a sound. A low, mournful howl. Not the kind that chilled your blood, but the kind that broke your heart. She whispered into the wind, "Are you still there?" And for just a moment, she saw it. A glint of amber eyes in the trees. Not threatening, just waiting. The next evening, Lily stood in the backyard again. The air was still, heavy with the kind of quiet that makes every breath feel like it echoes. A full moon hovered above the treetops. Her parents thought she was asleep, but something had told her to stay awake to wait. She didn't know how she knew, but deep in her chest, she felt it. They were coming, and so was something else then. Movement. From the forest edge, the 14 German shepherds emerged. Silently, one by one, they stepped into the yard, their formation precise and unbroken. Thor stood in the lead, his golden eyes locked on Lily. She stepped forward, without hesitation. "Why, are you here again?" she asked softly. That Thor didn't move, but in her mind, somewhere between instinct and dream, she understood. "Because tonight, we're not guarding you from the dark. We're guarding it from you." Lily froze. A deep vibration pulsed through the ground. It was faint, but enough to make the trees tremble. The dogs tensed. Thor moved in front of her, and the others formed their circle again, exactly as they had in the meadow. Except this time, Lily wasn't sitting in the center. She was standing, glowing. A soft shimmer radiated from her skin, not bright, but undeniable. Her pupils widened. Her breath slowed. Something ancient stirred inside her. Something that had been sleeping until the day she got lost in those woods. Far behind the trees, a shape rose tall, crooked, cloaked in a shadow that had no source. It didn't walk. It drifted, dragging darkness with it like smoke from a fire that refused to die. Russell and Pierce stood 100 yards away. Having followed the dog's trail to the edge of Lily's backyard, they were hidden in the brush, watching, barely breathing. "She's the anchor," Pierce whispered. Russell's jaw clenched. "Anchor for what?" Pierce's voice lowered. "There are things older than this land. Things that feed on fear, on loneliness. They wake when a child, with enough empathy, crosses their threshold." She didn't find the dogs that day. They found her because they knew she would wake it. And they knew they'd need to protect her. From herself. Lily took a step forward, her arms trembling. The darkness watched her. No eyes, no form, just presence. She could feel its hunger. It didn't want her body. It wanted her light, her trust, her belief. It fed on innocence. Thor let out a low growl. The other dogs followed, forming a vibrating wall of sound. Not loud, but forceful, the kind that shakes something loose from another world. The shadow paused, and then Lily did the one thing no one expected. She walked through the circle of dogs, straight toward the thing in the trees. Russell surged forward. "No," but Pierce held him back. "She has to finish it." Lily stopped inches from the darkness. Her voice didn't shake. "You don't belong here." The thing twisted, recoiling slightly. "You've been hiding? But I'm not scared of shadows." Her hands lit just barely. A warmth spilled from her chest, flowing outward like ripples in a pond. And then, she reached out and touched the shadow. There was no explosion, no scream, just silence. The shape folded inward, curling like smoke pulled into a jar. It flickered once, then vanished. Gone. Lily stood still, eyes wide, arms lowered. Behind her, the dogs howled in unison, not a cry of warning, but of completion. The circle broke. Thor stepped forward, nuzzling her hand gently. Russell and Pierce walked into the clearing. Pierce removed his hat. "She's more than we thought," he said. Russell looked down at Lily. "Are you all right?" She nodded slowly. "I think it's over." "No," Pierce said, watching the dogs begin to disappear into the forest one last time. "It's just beginning. But tonight, she won." Lily turned to the woods. She didn't see the dogs vanish, but she felt them go one by one until she stood alone. Except in her heart, she knew they were never really gone. They were just watching.